Can you hear me, Diogenes? What's up?
Hello, hello.
Hey, how's it going?
It's going good. Up late at night, just running through channels.
All right, that sounds good. And are you rough sex in the chat?
I am.
All right, that's a cool name in your Discord name. That's awesome.
Yeah, I have a lot of different names for Twitch. This is the only one I have for Discord.
Cool.
So you understand who Diogenes is?
Yes.
I mean, you said it right. So I assumed you probably did. That's really good because not a lot of people know who Diogenes is.
Yeah, he's one of my favorite. I guess you could call him a cynic.
Right. So when I said that I was skeptical of my experience, that plays in with the whole Diogenes belief.
No, yeah, yeah. No, I can
Or
agree with that.
yeah. So that night, um, I, I hate typing it because I'm on mobile and I have to touch screen type, and it's like 10 words a minute at the best.
No, yeah. Got this Discord going. It's kind of
That's a really
cool.
great idea.
Yeah, kind of like a talk show. You can call in, tell us what's up. So you saw this toy float up to a, I forget the word you use. Sorry.
I'll explain it in a little more detail here. It was early early morning hours, and I was sleeping, and I woke up to hearing brother screaming, and I was probably 4 or 5 years old at that time,
Yeah.
uh, and my brother would be six. We're a year and a half apart, and where he's on the other opposite end of the room, and he's screaming, and I wake up and I'm looking at him, and then out of the you know peripheral, I mean the toy was right next to my bed, so, and the toy itself was well how, I'm 41 years old, so it was one of those toys that it had a steering wheel on it and the screen scrolled, and it was a little car that you had to dodge these objects in the road. It wasn't like a video game, it was just like a machine.
Yeah, scroll based mechanism type of deal.
Yep. And so it floated at a not a very rapid pace, but you know, kind of hard to describe the pace of how it floated. But it diagonally went. At the foot of my bed was well, I call it a credenza, but it was more or less a chest of a sort. Um, and it landed, it rested upon the top of it. As soon as it came to its resting position, I, the adrenaline was pumping, and I ran over to my brother's bed, and I remember having a conversation with my dad. You know, something about ghosts. Before then, what do you do if you fight a ghost? He told me just start swinging at the air or whatever, and so that's what I was doing. I was standing on my brother's bed, just swinging. And my mom and my dad came into our room. Turned the lights on. What's going on? What's going on? We told them what happened. We were in disbelief. They couldn't. They didn't see it, so they didn't know.
Yeah.
So the next day they got rid of that chest. It was an old chest, by the way. It was something, it was passed down from family to family to family for a few generations. So I don't know if they had any kind of significant link to it or not, but they got rid of that toy and that chest, the next day, and then we never saw anything like that ever again.
Man, that's amazing. It sucks you
Yeah,
guys had to get rid of the chest, especially since it was passed down through generations.
yeah. I mean, there's a lot of weird things there. I mean, like we live right next to a cemetery. Uh, our grandfather had just passed away, like maybe a week or two before then.
Man, so your grandfather passed away a week or two before then.
Right.
And yeah, did you feel scared or was it just shock? Did like you didn't feel?
Oh, it was.
Go ahead.
Yeah, it was total terror. You know, it was definitely fear all the way. I mean, I was so scared. The adrenaline was pumping through me, and my brother's bed was like maybe 10 feet across the room, and I don't remember touching the floor.
Oh yeah, no, I can imagine. But you didn't like you didn't sense like evil or anything like that, or was it just fear, like a car accident fear?
I think it was like the fear of that unknown. Like you'd never seen something like that before. So and with the stories that you see on Halloween and all that stuff as a kid, it kind of sinks in.
Yeah, yeah. If you're old enough to know about ghosts and you see something like that, it's not a good combination.
Yeah, and like I said, years went by. I want to say, maybe 20 years later, uh, I don't know, chatting with my brother, and I said, "Hey, do you remember a night when we were like 5, 6 years old? And, this ghost, this toy floated." He stopped. His eyes grew big, and the goosebumps raised both our flesh, like, oh, look, I got goosebumps. You get goosebumps, and so he went on to describe that very night and explained everything, word, every detail, the same thing. The way I said it, everything was the same.
Gee. Yeah, that's when you, because like you were saying, you start doubting yourself after a while. When you see
Yeah,
things like that, it kind of gets like, I don't know. For the first few months, it's like, no, that really that really happened. But after a while, it becomes, well, I don't know. And then eventually, it's like, meh.
yeah, and like I said, we didn't talk about it for 20 years, and we were able to remember the same details. It was quite like reliving that experience. I mean, and at that point, I denounced religion basically. So when I said that I question, I'm skeptical about that night, uh, I guess I'm saying that I'm not necessarily sure that it did happen, or if it did happen, I don't know that it's necessarily linked to, like the biblical sense of reality.
Yeah, yeah. No, I get you. Did you know your grandfather well?
Well, I mean, being only 5 years old, I can't imagine we really had a lot of time together. So, I vaguely remember him at best.
No,
Um, ice cream would have been like the biggest thing I remembered.
that's pretty
Um,
cool.
yeah, he died of a brain aneurysm or cancer. He had like a big giant tumor in his brain and didn't catch it in time.
Oh man, yeah, cause
So, I
some.
mean, if it's like unresolved, like maybe he knew he died, but I never got to see him when he went into the hospital. Before he went into the hospital, we did see him for like maybe a month or two, but after he went into the hospital, he was in the hospital for I think maybe 4 months, and then he died, and we never saw him, that whole time when he was in the hospital. So maybe he had unresolved things, and the whole spirit energy thing, I'm still skeptical of it. Is it real or is this just like some kind of psychic link between my brother and I? But then I think psychics aren't real. That's all made up. So, you know, did my brother and I did we really experience that, or I'm still baffled by it today.
Yeah, yeah. No, I know exactly. I know exactly what you're going through. A lot of things happened to me where I'm just like, it was probably a hallucination. You know what I mean?
Can
But
you tell me your story?
sure, I have several. Um, well, I'll tell you. Let's see here. I'll tell you one from when I was 5. All right, so I'm sleeping one night, and my father was a single parent, and so he raised me, and we'd sleep in the same bed as because we only had could only afford one room, and there was only one bed. What else are you gonna do? And so I would always go to bed earlier, and then eventually he would go to bed. But all of a sudden, me and my father are in. I can't call it a ship because I never saw a ship or anything like that, but it was just a place. It with metallic walls everywhere, kind of like aluminum, I guess, but it wasn't shiny. It was kind of dull, like a dull gray color, and it didn't look all that spiffy. It looked well crafted, but nothing extravagant, nothing futuristic or anything like that. Just imagine a well carved cave with metallic walls and floors. And I remember looking up at my father, and he just had an expression of pure shock, just like, I don't know where I am. And there was a door in front of us, and the door slid open. And so we were just in this room, and this door slides open, and we just went to the door, and the door led to a hallway. And in this hallway, in the middle, there was a big dip. It dipped, kind of like a wooden bridge would dip, and we get into this hallway, and the door slides closed behind us. There's another door in front of us, but it's still closed. And so me and my father start walking towards the door in front of us when suddenly uh, the water starts rising up from the floor, and these holes open up at the bottom sides of the hallway, and these skin, I guess they were pink. It looked like flesh, like snakes made out of flesh, but they had no heads. They were just kind of like long snake looking things. And several of them came out into the water, and something about the water, you couldn't see through it. It didn't look dirty. It's just, I don't know. It was like murky, and
Mur- Murky, but like a metallic liquid.
no, no, it was just like water, but it was a murky water, kind of, I guess, bluish. You just couldn't see through it. It was kind of gelatinous, I guess.
That's a good way to describe it.
Yeah, and so you couldn't see these little eel things swimming down there. You just saw them come out into the water. And I remember my dad just kind of like seeing this and picking me up and putting me on his shoulders. And I remember him complaining in pain, being like, ah, ah, as we walked towards the door in front of us. And once we reached that, uh, he was a bit out of the water, because it bent in the middle. And so the door slides open, and it opens into this, I guess, another hallway. It was like a circular circular area, and it was elevated from the hallway. It was like you had to climb up a couple of steps, and he takes me off his shoulder and he sets me to the side on the upper part, and suddenly he's flushed. That same liquid flushes him back into that room, and the door closes. And I just remember being there, being like, "What? This?" Like I had no idea what to do. I just stood there for what seemed like several minutes, uh, and then at some point I realized that my eyes, I saw this figure in front of me, and it looked blurry, and it had a white background with a blue shape, and suddenly I focus, and it's my pillow. It's like a palm tree or something, some kind of shape on my pillow, and I realized that I had my eyes open, like my eyes were completely open, just staring at this thing. And it was morning, and my dad was snoring, and that was that.
Did your dad? Do you ever? When you did talk to him about it?
Oh yeah, he doesn't remember anything, nothing at all. He says, that's crazy. I don't know what you're talking about.
So
But
it seems like it would be some kind of dream state.
yeah, it could have been. But I've never slept with my eyes open except that time.
And you're 5 years old, similar in my age. Like, were did you see like a movie or something like that? Kind of related, maybe. I don't know how old you are. You maybe look similar to my age.
Yeah, I kind of, for some reason, I related it to. I don't know if you ever saw this cartoon. It used to be called Bobby's World.
Yeah, I remember Bobby's World.
In the beginning, they have a theme song that starts the show, and Bobby's World, Bobby in the theme song, he travels through all these different events, but there's one event where he's in the ocean, climbing up out of the ocean. You can see like a hill. That's for some reason I always related it to that. So
I
I
can
don't know.
see why. I mean, because you have this body of water, the ocean, relating back to uh, the liquid murkiness in your dream or vision or whatever you might call it. I can see that. Then what else can you draw from that? You say that it relates to that.
I have no idea. I don't know. I always say, yeah, I was abducted, and things like that, but I don't know.
That's okay. I can understand that. I have something that relates to that as well. Um, let's see. Summer of '91, between my freshman and sophomore year of high school. We had moved a couple years before then, and we lived out in a country, a very urban setting. Um, I'm sorry, rural. A very rural setting. Our closest neighbors were like maybe half mile away. Uh, Cornfields everywhere, and I don't. It wasn't too late at night. I was trying to go to bed. Uh, there wasn't school tomorrow or anything like that, and probably stayed up and played some Nintendo or something back then. Um, but I was my bedroom was was a converted enclosed front porch of an old farmhouse. Uh, my bed rested parallel with a, a large set of bay windows, and so you know July. I want to say it was probably July. Cloudless, starless night. I mean, not a cloudless night, but no moon. And all I could see was the stars. And like I said, I couldn't sleep, so I'm just kind of looking off into the distance of space, and into my vision comes a singular glowing white dot. It looked like it was a star, but it was moving very, very fast across the night sky. And it was moving as if it were like moving your mouse cursor across the screen. Like, just in any certain direction it wanted to go, it would go. And without any kind of hesitation, it would just, zigzag back and forth, but always in a constant from north to south direction, but, moving side to side in that whole way too. And, I thought, okay, I'm pretty sure I'm not dreaming, because I did remember falling asleep, and I remember having a hard time trying to get to sleep. Um, like I said, I lived, the front porch. There's not a lot of traffic out there, especially, I think it was probably around 11 p.m. at night. Um, I, I pinched myself. I slapped myself. I felt the pain of the pinch, and the, the spark of the slap, and I kept looking at it, and it's still there, zigzagging back and forth across the sky. And I start to think, how, should I should I get up and go outside,
Oh man.
and like, follow it, because I know it's gonna like slip out of my view within inside the house. And I considered wake, waking up my brother so I could have somebody else to verify what I'm seeing. And I consider in like a matter of seconds that I don't think I'm gonna have time to wake him up, and I'll lose sight of this whatever it is I'm seeing. So I just went out there myself, and in my underwear and bare feet, ran down the gravel driveway, crossed into the grass alongside the driveway so that it didn't hurt my feet. But um, I waited until it got to a point where across the street there was a massive cornfield, and then there was like a row of trees that divided some property, and then there was like a hayfield, and then another row of trees, a short strip, you call it, not too long a distance, another row of trees, and then another massive hayfield and slash cornfield uh, in that distance. So I came outside of the house and ran down the driveway in my bare feet and poking the rocks poking, and I stopped probably midway down the driveway, and I picked it up again, because it come outside of or it breached that row of trees. Um, so I picked it up again, and so I began like just slowly walking in the grass, so I could keep track of it while I was walking. And it disappeared between the second row of trees. And so I went down, I got to the road at that point, and then the road was paved, or is still paved, and I walked down the road to the entrance to the next field, and I walked out into the field, and I just watched it zigzagging back and forth in the same motion the whole way. It wasn't consistent. I will say it's it varied in some ways or another, but it just kept zigzagging back and forth from a north to south direction, until it disappeared out of my view.
So this, I imagine this was big enough to make you want to do that.
Well, yeah, I mean, I was just like, whoa, this is not normal. This I knew that we didn't have craft that wasn't capable of that. That doesn't necessarily mean it wasn't some government or military craft that we don't know about. I'm just, I don't assume that it was extraterrestrial. Um, so I don't. Even then I didn't like limit myself in that aspect of thought. I gave consideration to all those things.
So this was in the night. You're by yourself, and you traveled. How many yards do you think you traveled in the night barefoot to see this thing?
Well, our driveway was probably let's say 60 to 80 yards long, and then the entrance into that second field was probably maybe another 20 or 30 yards down the road, and then maybe another 10 to 20 yards into the field where I stopped, where could see the expanse of the sky in that field. So, distance traveled maybe 150, 100 at the most.
Oh, okay. So that's a pretty good distance. So it went away, and you just walked back home.
Yeah, as soon as I lost sight of it, I stood there and considered, you know, I am really awake. I'm not dreaming this. I know this. I'm very well aware that I'm awake. And so, yeah, I drifted back home and kept looking over my shoulder to see if I maybe popped back up or not, but it didn't. So I went back into bed. I remember waking up the next morning. I don't remember if it was a weekday or a weekend. If my parents might have gone to work or whatever. But I asked my brother. I told him about it. I said, he, he was in the next room over, and I could have woken him up, and I was telling him, um, but he said he had a similar experience in a classroom in the middle of the day um, at one of our previous houses.
Yeah, the reason I was asking how much you traveled and things like that is uh, there. I've heard in books and things like that, specifically from an author called Lou Baldwin, and he has several books. But one of the things he says is pretty much if you see a UFO, and he's talking specifically aliens, extraterrestrials. If you see a UFO, it's because they're bringing you back.
But is he describing the possibility that it's there to monitor you?
Oh, there's like a million different reasons why they. Yeah, he does, and there's too many to count. It's very personal, unique to each individual, according to what he says. Um,
Yeah, I would believe that, and but I would believe that it is different in every aspect of each individual. But from my perspective, I'm thinking they weren't aware that I was there watching them, uh, and I I I I still think about like what kind of distance off in the skyline that they would have been from me. You know, they wouldn't have known I was there. It just looked like they were just, I don't know, scanning the ground, maybe scanning. I have no idea, like, the reason why it would be moving in the way that it was. It wasn't always side to side, it was sometimes back and forth. There was so many different movement characteristics that definitely tells me it's not some kind of uh, jet or helicopter or something like that. So um, there's zigzagging back and forth. How do you discern like what the purpose of that movement was? So I know that they're not you know trying to beam me up or something.
I'm not saying that they did, but one of the things that crossed my mind, because this is a remarkable story, man. I mean, this would make one hell of an intro to a movie. I mean, it
Yeah.
sounds completely genuine, by the way. I mean, what you're telling me is like awesome,
Thank
but
you.
it pretty much let me just put it in this perspective. Whatever this thing did, whatever its maneuvering and things like that, it lured you out of the house for whatever
Well,
reason.
well, I can tell you that reason. The reason was that I was curious to see where it would go, and I knew that I would lose it in the first tree line, and I wanted to get out there in a hurry to make sure that I could find it again as it come out the other side of it. And in the direction it was traveling, I knew I would pick it up on the other side. But from my view of the windows, I knew that once it got beyond the second tree line, wouldn't be able to see it. So I had to get out into that second field uh, uh, to be able to, because the field was owned by dairy farm neighbors of mine that I worked for, and I'd been out in that field, with tractors and baling hay and all that stuff. So I already knew kind of like the layout of that field. So I knew that if I got out into that field, I'd see a great distance because of the tree lines and the hills and whatnot. Um, so yeah, the whole reason that I did it was just because I didn't want to lose sight of it before. I mean, I wanted to observe it as long as I possibly could.
You ever hear of missing time?
Yeah, I'm aware of that kind of phenomenon. Sure.
And do you have like any any judgment? Could you definitive? Is there any way you could definitively say that you did not experience missing time?
I'm very certain that I did not lose track of time. Yes.
Oh,
Yeah.
okay.
Because I remember, it's the middle of summer. Uh, and I remember having to swat mosquitoes and all that stuff off me. And they were biting me up, but I persisted. So each of those mosquito bites was a bit of that time. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I know what you mean. Yeah, because I don't know, mosquito bites. I don't know. I'm not saying anything happened. I'm just saying the story you just told me leaves room for from the time you saw it leave and the time you decide, well, it's gone. Let me just walk back home. In that moment, uh, maybe you could have missed some time.
No, I really remember that, walking back out of the field. I remember walking back, I remember the pavement under my feet, and then, entering the house again. I even contemplated waking my brother up to tell him at that moment. And then I thought, well, it can wait at this point now because it's gone already. So, I'll tell somebody, and I told my parents about it too. Probably I think when they got home from work or something. But when I saw them again, I told them the same thing. But it's like telling somebody, something so extraordinary that they're not gonna. I remember the reaction to it was, "Huh, okay, that's weird. Are you on drugs, son?" what? was one of the things. I never even touched weed or anything before then.
Well, that's an awesome story, man. Even without missing time or anything.
Yeah, I mean, if I had missed some time, I would definitely think that would be a significant thing, and I think you would that I would have like realized that I was missing time. Like
A lot of people don't realize it. In the middle of the
I
night, you don't
yeah, I
have a
mean,
watch on. 2 hours can pass, and you'd have to know how to navigate like a Viking to know you missed time.
I would agree with that. I mean, but knowing that I saw the thing go throughout that field distance until it was out of sight, uh, I'm pretty sure that I was never like abducted or anything like that. I'm very sure that I have no
All right.
memories or anything like that. So
That's pretty awesome, man. Thank you for that. I really appreciate that.
yeah, I do like telling the story because it when you I've been on websites and saw YouTube videos and stuff of some pretty interesting phenomenon, and uh, actually since the dawn of YouTube, when the videos were released or you could watch these things happen, you see the same movement characteristics that I was describing.
Yeah. No. I was reading this story on Reddit once of this family that had a 15-minute trip from a late night party back to their house, and they saw they saw one of those triangular UFOs with three lights that's like pitch black. You can only see it because it's darker than the night sky. One that's often seen by many people, and they had two children in the back seat, and one of them woke up at this time because the father slightly stepped on the brakes as it passed above them. And when they got home, they talked about it the next day or something like that. And the youngest son that remained asleep told him that they had actually stopped. The story that they recall was different than the youngest son who had remained asleep in the back seat. Now you could say the youngest son was just dreaming.
Wow.
Yeah, and they were. It took them 45 minutes to get home on a 15-minute trip.
So they were aware of time
Yeah,
and checked that. And when you brought that up about the missing time, I thought about like my memory that back, I recalled, and I thought, I never did look at an alarm clock or any kind of clock in our house.
you'd never know.
Uh,
Mosquito bites. Yeah, yeah, that's a good method for keeping time, but you'd never know if you were missing time. All you know is you got up, saw something, followed it out into a field, and walked back home.
well, I mean, I'm pretty sure of like my consciousness at that point, but and I think the mosquito bites, because I do remember, pointing them out when I was telling my brother the story. Like, hey, I was out there swatting mosquitoes off me, and here's little mosquito bites out, on my shoulders and my neck and face and stuff. So, um, yeah, I definitely consider the whole disappeared time thing. But there are, thousands upon thousands of videos where people have, just video recorded, the same incident, or not same incident, but the same similar thing, where they're just recording a spaceship or whatever it is, going across the sky. And so that the video never stopped. You know what I mean? So
Oh yeah, yeah,
it's like it's like a recording in my own head, you know.
yeah, yeah,
So
yeah. No, I know what you mean. You know what you. I mean, you have no recollection of anything ever happened to you beyond and coming back. I'm just saying, you never know.
Well, I definitely wouldn't rule it out. You know, I would definitely consider that, and I have actually. But what I'd like to say is that, you know, when we discuss UFOs, unidentified flying objects, it's not necessarily that they're extraterrestrial. There's no way we really would know. Um, for one, I've because of that incident, you know, I've researched or looked into or asked the questions about that night. I would kind of losing track here. Uh, I looked into like space travel. You know what it would take to be able to travel these great distances, and the flight characteristics of the craft that I saw, zigzagging as it were. Uh, I don't know that it was necessarily in our atmosphere. It could have been outside of the atmosphere. Um, but I think there's a lot to deal with when it comes to space travel. Um, you have all this space debris, asteroids, even the smallest little pencil-sized object could penetrate a craft.
Cause a
Uh,
supernova at those speeds.
yeah, it would destroy the craft immediately, and I think and really honestly, man, that led me to question the whole space play to the moon. The moon landing to me was it's a hoax. It's not real. It was, yeah, I definitely feel like the evidence uh, is persuasive enough to say that we didn't land on the moon, especially with the '60s, the technology it would have taken to get there.
Yeah.
um, but I'm not going to go as far as a flat earther.
No, I know, I know what you mean, and especially Neil Armstrong. If he did land on the moon, he's one badass dude, man. They missed their mark, and he does an uncharted super emergency landing. I don't know. That's
Yeah,
he's a badass if he really did that.
there's a lot more to consider with that too. Is like um, the Van Allen radiation belt is many thousands of miles wide that they would have had to travel through. In order to avoid the radiation, they would have either had to have a great deal of lead shielding to protect them from the radiation. There's all kinds. When we talk of radiation, we're talking gamma rays, we're talking microwaves. Um, I don't know all the waves, but I'm an electrician, and I understand frequency, and I understand that the radiation exists on those frequencies. But more so, to travel through that Van Allen radiation belt, either they would have had to have like that lead shielding to prevent them from radiation sickness, or they would have had to travel much, much, much faster than they would have been going to get there.
Yeah.
Uh, so those things, um, plus they had uh, all this extra weight. There's a lot to consider with that.
Yeah, just the Van Allen belt alone. And would they have that a bit of foil? I didn't see
Yeah, I
no,
mean,
I didn't see no 2 feet of lead on that little spacecraft.
I don't know the thickness of the lead that would have been required. I'm sure that that information would be there, but
Yeah.
I never bothered to look because I kind of was like, well, got all these other factors going on. I mean, they kind of add up. So, um, one of the other things to consider too is that you know the computer technology to calculate uh, the the movements and all that stuff. We're talking like 1960s computer technology. I mean, it filled the size of a room for what we can contain on our phone.
Yeah. Yeah, and most of those guys had a high school education. It just shows you, well, but then again, education was really good back in the day. So a high school education meant you just had a lot of experience. Versus now, you get out of college and you know nothing when it comes to experience. But they use slides to make most of their calculations. You know, it's like
Yeah. Can you imagine Acubus and the using Acubus
yeah,
to calculate this landing? You got the weight of the craft, the gravity of the moon itself. I mean, the moon has a little bit of gravity, so um, there's so much to consider with all that. But I, it led me to another. Once you figure out that, well, maybe space travel is impossible, so does that mean the extraterrestrial or what the UFOs are not extraterrestrial? Where are they coming from? Are they like a government technology, or well, another thing that we call this the rabbit hole. One thing leads to another. You just keep following the path down,
yeah,
but it's all about asking the right questions, right? If you're asking, okay, if you're able to eliminate, say, space travel is not possible. We didn't land on the moon. There's radiation. There's all kinds of issues with space travel. So that the aliens, they're not really alien. They're well. It came to a point where I looked at the ruins of Pumapunka in Peru. You have these stones that are uh, 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 precision cut, and with the carbon dating technology we have, we know it's accurate enough to discern that the stones were uh, more than 100,000 years old. So it draws me to a conclusion where um, maybe there's a cataclysmic event and this ancient civilization was around, and the survivors went underground. They and maybe they did some gene splicing or something, and added their DNA into a chimpanzee or something. And a certain evolution did take place. I'm an atheist and I'm an agnostic, but I don't necessarily believe that
oh Jesus,
evolution's not accurate.
yeah. But one thing I've always considered is when we think like if there are extraterrestrials, I'm sure the government has a lot of nice technology on their hands. Like if something, let's say extraterrestrials were able to make it to Earth, the accident in Area 51 happened. I mean, the government has a lot of nice things, a lot of nice technology, and
Yeah.
so when we think of extraterrestrials, we tend to think like, wow, they could be like thousands of years ahead of us in technology, but we never really think about the fact that, I mean, the universe has been here for a long time. So
Yes,
extraterrestrials could be billions of years ahead of us.
that's true. That's true. And I think that brought me to that same conclusion, or drew part to that conclusion, is that okay, so even if there was a civilization here 100,000 years ago, uh, there's what, like a million years or something like that separates us from dinosaurs.
Yeah,
you know, um, but if there was this tech civilization that existed hundreds of thousands of years ago, um, how how did they get here? Did they evolve from an amoeba? Did they were they the ones that evolved, into this grand species?
yeah,
But again, always this whole thing comes back to, are they extraterrestrial from the beginning? And you have to go to that same thing. That's go back to the drawing board and ask, is space travel possible? and then we come up with these scenarios like wormholes and you know, faster than light speed travel. I mean, it's beyond our comprehension right now. I mean, we have Gene Rod for a lot of our beliefs on it right now, but does it necessarily make it true?
Yeah, yeah, that's the thing. You never know. Never know with
Well,
these things, man.
and and if I go back and I draw to this situation when I was a kid, seeing this toy floating and all that stuff, is that a link between the two? You know, that's the question I have in my mind at all times. Is um, do we really have a spirit? Does our energy does do we have a spirit? Does it remember? Do we have the capability of memory after that? Science would say no. Science would say your brain, you know, once it shuts down, all those synapses of electrical energy connecting those dots ceases to exist. So therefore, uh, you don't have that connection.
Yeah, that's what. Well, science says there's not enough evidence, so they just like we got better stuff
Well,
to figure out.
well, you know, science we've learned to smash atoms and make nuclear bombs. I mean, so
Yeah,
we know atoms exist, and so it's it's a very important and very difficult question to answer. Is to figure out, you know, does does thought contain atoms? That's really where I'm kind of resting at this point, where in my search of the truth. Is like, is it
is it
does
physical?
do our thoughts contain uh do thoughts contain energy or particles, matter, you know, the things that would draw or create a spirit?
Yeah, that's a good question, but I always question the fact that what makes an atom? I mean, as far as we know, nothing makes an atom.
That is a very pertinent question as well. That's definitely like part of the puzzle, no doubt.
I mean, the things are almost virtually completely nothing. They're just like almost just there, and they make up what we touch, feel, and eat, and everything. It's like, what the hell? I'm eating nothing? Tastes pretty damn good to me.
Yeah, and have you ever seen some? Okay, do you watch documentaries?
Yeah, I watch a couple here. Let me just bring in Doom into the chat here. Let me just put my finger on the trigger in case Doom is a troll. I've had some bad experiences.
I can understand, man. This is Twitch. This is the
Yeah.
internet. We're all subject to it.
Hey, Doom, how's it going? Can you hear me? I think you can talk now.
Yeah, I'm good. How are you guys doing?
I'm doing great
Hi,
tonight.
hello, Doom. How are you?
We can hear you now, Doom.
Doom, hello.
Yeah, we can't hear you at the moment. I can just hear.
He already responded, so we know he got the push to talk available.
Yeah.
Yeah,
There you
it
go.
was getting the feedback thing was happening to me.
Oh, yeah, you gotta turn down your Twitch.
Yeah, I have. I'm listening to the stream in the very faint background. I'm on mobile. I'm on a cell phone, so having the stream up and Discord makes for that situation. The feedback.
Right. Yeah. You actually brought up some really good topics. That'd be Dio,
You can say
right?
Diogenes.
But yeah, it was a very interesting topic about the UFO. With mine, like I was saying, it's more of a paranormal.
Sure, go
Yeah,
ahead.
I would definitely agree with paranormal over supernatural.
Right. No, it's definitely not supernatural, I don't think. It's just paranormal.
No, go feel free to share. Doom.
I think it's a ghost. I'm pretty sure I have a ghost. Uh, there's a few different instances as to why. Um, from the second I got moved in, I could constantly hear humming, like the little kids humming, like weird Mary had a little lamb, stuff like that, from the back of the house. Well, uh, I just made, and that was the old kids' room, house used, obviously. But so I just made that the guest room, and so well, my buddy and his girlfriend come over. I'm like, well, I have a bed set up over there. Well, what ends up happening is they come and start knocking on my door on the opposite end of the house. Hey, what's going on? Well, evidently, somebody had shattered the light while they were sleeping in it and started knocking on the walls around them.
Doom, Doom,
And
can you describe like your house, the setting, you know, some certain aspects of geographical landscapes and stuff?
all right, I live in southeast New Mexico, like the very southeast. I live in a pre-built home uh, that was probably about 25 years old or so, and I bought it from my cousin who sold it to me for really cheap, and I never really got the reason why he sold it for that cheap. And then yeah, I live out in the country, kind of.
Yeah, southeast New Mexico is definitely going to be out in the country, but you're also not too far from Area 51 there.
No, not at all.
Oh man, I gotta feed my baby real quick. I'll be right back. Continue, guys. Sorry.
uh no, area 51's up I don't know, couple hundred miles away, something like that, about 3 hours. Depending on where you believe it is.
Are you saying there's a skepticism about where it's at?
There's quite a bit, yeah.
I mean, well, we've seen a lot of evidence of UFO activity from Nevada, Arizona, and New Mexico. So that whole area is pretty much,
Yeah,
under scrutiny.
yeah, definitely.
So please explain these experiences you've had.
Well, basically what it is there's a constant humming from this one area of the house. It's not anything with the plumbing, not anything with the air conditioning, nothing. It's not the pipes, whatever. It's not that because it has a certain like beat to it, and it just stays there. And if I try to do anything in that room, like put in a new light, you get shattered.
Can you Doom? Can you explain, like, is this a 24-hour cycle thing? Is it nonstop? Is it?
Um, I'd say about 10 hours a day.
That's quite strange.
Yeah, very.
I have a diagnosis where I hear I have tinnitus. They call it. It's ringing in both of my ears 24/7. It's a very high
Right.
pitched squealing kind of noise. So it doesn't
That's
sound like
not.
this. A humming is definitely not a high pitch.
No, no, not at all. No, I know what you're meaning with tinnitus because I've had it before.
Oh, yours has gone away. Mine's never stopped.
Yeah. This is not that at all. Uh, yeah, it freaked me out for a long time until I realized, it's not gonna actually hurt me.
Has your tinnitus? It's gone away. So it brings to question in my mind: is this is this connected on the same 10-hour day? Did you have it before you moved there?
Yeah, I had it way before and I lost it before I moved.
Okay, and does it still come back?
No,
Okay,
no, completely gone. I had it when I was like 9, actually.
and
Uh,
do you know how you may have had it happen? How do you know how it happened? How you got tinnitus?
how? Honestly, I'm not sure.
And can you say what kind? Can you explain the noise that you did have?
Like what the noise is.
Yeah, can you explain it? Describe it.
Well,
I'm sorry. Describe it.
uh, I kind of did before, but
Say
what it
small
is,
children singing nursery rhymes.
well, no, like a little girl,
Okay, but wait.
one little girl.
Did does did did they occur at the same time? Your tinnitus with the humming of the girl. You're saying the humming of the girls was
No,
an
I had
irritating
tinnitus
sound.
when I was 9 years old. I'm 30. Yeah, I lost it by the time I was like 13.
Okay, it was a brief time.
Yeah,
Yeah, what?
tinnitus is, and I know it sounds like it's not that.
And you were saying you're in New Mexico. A lot of spooky stuff
Yeah.
to happen down there. Do you know of any Native American house or burial grounds in that
Yeah, a lot of unmarked graves all around.
unmarked?
Like we don't know where people are buried sometimes.
Wow.
Can you go on with this experience though?
Uh, A little bit. Well, typically it's not too bad. It's just like the humming, like I said. Every so often, you can look into that window and you'll just see somebody there,
Jeez.
and no one lives with me.
Do you feel like a bad presence or good presence, or is it just jarring? Is it just frightening?
Just kind of jarring. It's not bad feeling. It's just you can tell there's something there.
Oh, okay. Have you ever tried to like, hey, stop it, or anything like that?
Oh yeah, yeah. It's just, I mean, that's not going to help.
Yeah,
It's I started looking stuff up, uh, because that's what you do when you have something going on.
yeah. One
And
of oh, sorry. Go ahead.
everything that I looked up said, you pretty much, you're
Yeah,
probably going to agitate something.
yeah. One thing my father told me, and this has helped me a lot in my life, is whenever there's situations like that, you can always say like, "All of thou who is not of the light, go back to whence it came," and that's just always seemed to
Right.
help me. But yeah, that's interesting.
Yeah, I'm not sure what it is. It's just my story.
Uh,
And
Doom, I'd like to know, are you seeing any kind of uh, apparitions or something like that?
no, but the door opens at random. Um, I hear footsteps coming down the hall, and then they'll just stop halfway and go back.
Jeez.
So, not seeing any apparitions. It's just mostly audio. The only apparition I've seen is through the window, and it could have been a shadow being weird, at random times or something. But I've seen it a couple times.
Do you live? I mean, you live out in the. Are you near a city at all?
Yeah.
Like within the city proper?
Not in the city proper, just outside.
You have you know traveling distance between houses though. That's less than how far away is the next nearest house?
Not very far. An acre.
And one of the things I question
Okay.
is like, have you seen UFOs or whatever? Since you live that close to, you live a lot closer to Roswell than I do, and I've had that experience up here. I was in Michigan when I saw that.
Um, I can't say yes or no on that because I really wouldn't know what to look for. Uh, so if I did, I probably just went on, you know.
Yeah, no, I can understand. All right, so you're in a house, you hear some type of whispering, possibly from children, and you see a silhouette. You've seen a silhouette through a window. You live in New Mexico, and there's unmarked burial areas throughout your location.
Right.
And you've read stuff online? Oh, man.
Yeah. The most that I could see that was supposed to be the most helpful was to get sage, which I have no idea where to get that from.
Yeah, usually when uh, people call exorcism, I don't know if it's Roman Catholic or I don't believe it's Protestant, but they go in and they pray and they use sage
I
and
I want to say it's Catholic.
yeah.
Um, I'm more agnostic than anything.
Yeah, it makes me too.
Uh, but I mean, it's happening, so I'm like, all right.
But just to give you one of my theories,
You know,
I believe it's just the intent. It's just the intent. I don't believe, this is just my personal belief. I don't believe that there's a ritual you can do and there's specific words you got to say and a specific plant you got to burn. I believe it's
right?
just the intent. So,
Yeah, it's a what do you call it? One of those sugar pills.
exactly. So I heard this from
Yeah,
a fellow friend here on Twitch. His channel is Red Dirt Ranch, and we had a viewer called in who's having bad experiences as well, and he told her just to tell it to go away,
yeah. I mean, I've tried it.
and it still continues.
Yeah.
Exactly how persistent is this? Is it every day? Is it once a week, once a month? What are we talking here?
That's what I was saying. It's almost every day.
Man, that's pretty rough. How does that make you feel? Do you like? Are you thinking of moving out? Are you cool with it?
Uh,
Are you used to it?
I got used to it, honestly.
Me as a skeptic, if I had that experience in my adult age here, I would definitely be. If I felt comfortable enough that my life wasn't threatened in any way, I would begin to experiment. Have you
No,
considered anything like that?
no, I wouldn't recommend that.
Yeah, see that's the thing that I don't want to really try is experimenting too much.
When we're talking experimenting here, I'm not talking about putting your child's life on the line. I'm
No,
saying,
I don't have a child. It's just me and a couple cats. you know.
Yeah,
But
okay.
I mean, from a non-skeptic point of view, you could invite things you don't want in, and things like that. I could understand if you're totally skeptic. You know, it's like let's see what happens. But
well, even it's something I don't understand completely, and I know that I'm not going to be able to fully understand. Like,
yeah,
I'm pretty sure about that. So I'm not gonna poke it.
yeah, definitely. I wouldn't recommend that. But
Me on the other hand, I'm always, wanting to question stuff, and I would definitely experiment to eliminate all possibilities of, incorrectly assessing something. You know what I mean? I wouldn't want to just sit there and guess. I would want to, try to.
But I mean, I own the house and the property, and so unless I wanted to sell everything,
I
if
see what
something
you
went wrong,
I see what you're saying, Diogenes. You're talking about verifying what it is.
right? I understand that.
Yeah, no, I'm cool with that. But I thought you meant like talking to it and saying, "Hey, where's your friends?" You know, like I'm not as scared of you. Try something else. I thought you meant experimentation
That
like that.
that's that's not exactly the experimentation I'm talking about.
Yeah.
More or less, I think that what I'd like to describe here is that maybe you set up sound listening devices,
Yeah.
like in the hallway or wherever you're hearing the noises, right? And try to isolate where the sounds are coming from, and work from there, basically.
I see
Those are
what
the
you're
kind of
saying.
experiments.
I see.
I get that,
Uh,
and I've kind of done that, except uh, I don't know. It's hard to do with a ton of equipment.
Yeah.
well, the devices are out there and they're cheap enough. I mean, a cell phone with how you can get an app on your phone now that will pick up the monitor and record all of the times when you're not awake, and you can go back and replay them.
Right. But then you get into that like super horror stuff where it's like Experiment or whatever it was, that movie.
Oh yeah,
uh,
paranormal activity.
yeah.
Yeah,
And it's like activity, yeah. And you're like, did he really need to do that?
you're suggesting that you might be inviting something a little more harsher than what you're already experiencing.
Well, I think I got a little girl right here, you know, that got killed. I don't want any of her relatives coming around.
I read a story once on Reddit, and this guy experienced a lot of things that you're describing. It wasn't a little girl, but he received some mail that wasn't his, like from an older tenant of the location, and that's what he named the ghost. And he would talk to the ghost, like
Yeah.
he would act like it was a roommate that he wasn't friends with, and he actually left a piece of paper out with a pen that said, just, if you have any problems, just write them down here. But it really didn't do anything except make him feel more comfortable. It kind of like lightened the mood.
Right. Uh, I'm pretty happy with how I am.
That's cool. Well, that's great to hear. I wouldn't want you to be living in under stress or fear.
Right. That's kind of what I mean, and I don't want to poke anything. I don't want to mess with anything. I'm happy with what I'm doing.
I think that if you don't have fear of this object or being that's messing with you in some sort of way, um, I would start to think: is there a message that they're trying to communicate to you?
She might, if it's not anything that's frightening or anything like that. That's a good point for Diogenes. She could be trying to keep you company, or she might feel lonely.
Might be.
You know what I mean?
Yeah, maybe.
And that's
Well,
that's not such a bad thought.
no, it's not such a bad thought. And I think that maybe there's something you could do to facilitate that. Not just saying here again the experimentation. You gotta rule things out. Like the person, whatever thing is bothering you, is not trying to harm you, obviously, and maybe it doesn't even have the capability. Is it trying to produce fear in you, or is it trying to, ask for your help? Is it trying to tell you something? You know what I mean?
Mm.
And if you're not fearful of it, you can definitely go about this in a better way to try to figure out the answers here.
Well, uh, the way I think of it is it's something that's lonely. It seems like more so than anything.
Yeah, so I think what you're trying to say, Doom, is you pretty much called in with your paranormal story, and you don't want anything really to change. You're just telling us what's
Right.
up, and you're pretty comfortable with what you got at the moment. That's not so bad. That's an incredible story, though. Not everybody has a. Most people have really bad stories, and yours seems pretty. I don't know, pretty homely, I'd say.
I gotta say, I don't want to call you Night Terror, but
Jack, ghost host Jack, or Jack, whatever you want.
Jack, I think it's adorable you have your child with your side. I mean, it helps.
He I have to. I'm sorry. Second he gets sleepy, I'll put him back, but he'll start screaming like a banshee if I don't. If I don't. Jesus.
Yeah, he hears you talking. Uh, you had some more experiences to offer earlier. So you you described at least one experience. Do you have another?
Um, let's see here. I don't want to. He can't hear anything. I don't want to tell ghost stories on Twitch.
Yeah.
I'll have Child Protective Services knocking on my door. Excuse me, are you ghost host Jack? I'm like, no. You know what I mean? I'll wait a little bit. He'll go to sleep in a moment, but I'll definitely tell you one the second I get a chance here.
I mean, I've only had those two experiences in my lifetime, and one, I thought for a long time was supernatural, and it's still, you know, isn't out of the realm of possibility.
I'll tell you though, they're
Uh,
pretty incredible stories though. I mean, not a lot of people have seen what you've seen.
yeah, I tend to agree, man. I mean, I'm thinking, you know, here we live next to a cemetery, a lot of spiritual energy. Is that all like a real thing, man? Is spirit energy a real thing, man? That's really what I keep going back to. And if it's not, is it some kind of well, it's not necessarily extraterrestrial in my mind, with given what I have come across with space travel and all that. So, is it is it again, I'm an atheist. I'm an agnostic atheist,
Well,
but go ahead. I'm always questioning, even the tinnitus in my head. Is that spiritual energy? Is it something that's resonating within my own mind that's blocking
well,
out certain things?
well. Sometimes that could be very different. What I think that you're describing with the difference between spiritual and physical would be what would be considered a poltergeist, which I'm pretty sure I don't have a poltergeist because that's usually about like violent crimes, stuff like that, where the actual energy is left.
For me, when it comes to the classifications of ghost phenomena, again, the ghosts tend to be more supernatural. If you're watching, the things on TV or whatever, they could be fake, they could be faked, they could be, you know, um, manufactured just to make a show. So I'm not necessarily trust the things I see on TV. Um, the classifications. A poltergeist is something that can manipulate objects, and we're just a regular ghost is just trying to communicate with you. It could be some kind of crazy thing like a separate that what they're proposing is they're trying to create this difference that certain ghosts have gathered enough power or energy, whatever, to be able to do certain things. Like manipulating matter and to be able to like move objects and stuff.
Right.
And that
What my difference would be whether a person is just dead and is there, and that would be like a spirit, you know.
well, that's where that distinction comes across, right? Where a poltergeist would be able to
Or
manipulate.
emotionally traumatizing happened in that area.
I mean, does it even have to deal with emotion? You know, I mean, emotions are a frequency based thing within our minds.
Right. I
And my whole contention was before that if there is a spirit, does it have memory? Does it is it able to carry out what it remembers? When the brain dies, we lack the memory, right? That would be the basis of my point.
That's an interesting thought there. But what if there's two things recording? Let's say you have a soul and then you have a physical brain. Now, your contention is that when we die, the soul no longer has the data that was stored in the brain. But what if the soul itself records things far more better? Uh, the subconscious. What if the subconscious has a connection to our is more closer to our soul than it is to our physical mind? I don't know if I'm making sense.
You were cutting out quite a lot there. What I was definitely gathering was that, and I definitely tend to agree with that if there is a spiritual uh, being within our own body, where the memory uh, within the brain transfers somehow to the spiritual energy, uh, it almost makes sense in a way that um, like all the data, how we're communicating right now with um, data transmission. You don't see the data phone right now or your internet, right? It's all wireless. Data transmits in that same way.
Yeah. What if we have a cloud, a spiritual cloud?
Yeah, that's a really really good point, Doom. Or I mean, sorry, Jack is the if if there's a way for our brain to transfer that into in energy on its own, our own thoughts become a cloud. That's a very significant thought and a very needs it definitely needs more research. I would definitely agree with that.
Yeah, because if we're just going to take a small leap and say just for hypothetical reasons that there is a soul, then actually gives our lives, our physical lives, sort of educational or purgatory or uh, some kind of purpose versus just procreation and uh, an evolutionary uh, happenstance uh, developed purpose. You know what I mean?
I this whole idea of the cloud with uh, with our current technology could definitely marry up with a spiritual sense, that our memories are just collected and stored when we die. Um, that this cloud, we're released back into the cloud, and our energy recollects all that data, and we're able to go back to our original locations, where we're from and all that stuff,
Yeah,
and draw upon that energy. And from my standpoint, I mean, it does tend to make some sense. And in my experience with when I 5 years old and seeing that toy float, it really makes that you know how that there's a crossover point there we're talking about, where the spiritual energy can still pick up physical matter and move it. You know what I mean?
yeah, yeah. Yeah, there's a lot to be. I mean, so many things are going to remain in the unknown, and anything we can speculate about is we have to use our own references like technology or the cloud. In order for us to understand things, we need symbols. Just like in order to speak a language, we need words. But behind our words, behind our symbols, there is a world we're trying to convey with those symbols. So I don't know, man. In order to explain certain things, I think we just lack the ability, we lack the symbols to explain a lot of the things that we witness. And that's why we say things like ghosts, and that's why we say things like paranormal. I mean, these could be interdimensional things that are just as natural as tadpoles. They just don't teach it to us in school. Like, for example, if we grew up in New Mexico uh, 300 years ago in a Native American paradigm, spirits and the paranormal would be our way of life. It wouldn't even cross our minds for it to be um, abnormal or supernormal or paranormal or anything. To Native Americans 300 years ago, a helicopter is paranormal. The internet would be paranormal. Things we, I don't know. It's like two different dimensions merging.
Yeah, two different dimensions merging is that's a significant idea. Like there has to be, and I think that's where I'm drawing upon my two separate experiences. Is that uh, you know there's things that we'll never be able to explain with science, and the creation of life and the universe and all that stuff is interconnected. And does that mean that my experiences, that are they linked? With what we know, can we link them with what we know?
Yeah, that's a good question. But like for example, what you saw something levitate on top of a chest. That reminds me of how a two-dimensional being would view a three-dimensional being, and a three-dimensional being would only see the shadow of a fourth-dimensional uh, object, and so on and so forth. So, I don't know. I don't know. Sometimes I try to rationalize what we see, and I don't know. But it's pretty cool that you saw that nonetheless. And just like Doom, his story. I mean, uh, I mean that's an awesome story as well. Bringer of Illuminate. But these things are very difficult to talk about. Like that's why I have this stream, because Twitch is full of people, and you can read scientific articles all day, but the reason science doesn't incorporate millions of stories and personal experiences that people have, and that's one thing I love doing, is listening to people's experiences, listening to what occurs to people and what they think about them, and hearing the genuine tone of their voice when they explain it, their attempt to rationalize what they're witnessing, because it happens. It might not happen the way we would like it to happen in a lab, or through an academic process, but there is there is a process happening throughout the centuries to millions of people, and I think stories like yours and Bringer of Illuminate, Doom, are, to me, they're there's something I would like to listen to. There's something I enjoy investigating and thinking about, and things like that. So I really appreciate you, both of you, coming forward with your stories.
And Jack, you may be onto something here with the stream.
I hope so.
like something that hearing your dog barking in the background.
That's not my dog.
Oh, somebody else's. All right.
Yeah.
The thing I wanted to say here is that you may be cornering a certain market on Twitch. Like I think this is something like UFO TV should have jumped on right away, is to bring anybody with a story together, and that you have a very good niche with your stream, with your idea.
I hope so, because the reason I am doing this is, I don't know if you've ever listened to Coast AM.
Yeah, absolutely.
And their interviews were okay. I enjoyed them, and but what I really turned up the radio on was the call-ins, and you'd get all kinds of people pranking, and you get people, I am the reincarnation of Alexander the Great, and all kinds of crazy stuff. But just the genuine stories. I mean, the honesty in the voice of some of these callers with their amazing stories. That's what I love to hear from Coast to Coast. And
Yeah, and I think you're bringing that together here on Twitch, man.
Yeah,
I think your channel could grow because of that.
I hope so.
But man, you're gonna have to find a way to weed out those trolls, man. You're gonna have to do, cut people off and whatever.
Yeah, no. I had a terrible experience yesterday. I pretty much got mauled. I had my Discord totally open. Totally. I mean, you could take total control and do whatever you want in Discord, and I had to turn off the stream and set the settings correctly there. But it's a learning experience. This is kind of like a modern day, uh, talk show, and I'm just learning as I go. But no, you know what? For every troll, there's a lot more people that are interested. So you know, trolls are trolls. They exist in our netherworld. They aren't a myth. They're real.
Trolls to me are the ultimate skeptics. You know, they're skeptical of everything, so therefore they want to make fun of everything. You know, I totally get it. I mean, you know, I made the names that I made, but I had a reason for the name that I presented in your channel tonight.
Yeah,
Mine was honestly just to collect reactions to my name, just to hit the follow button and see, what if somebody's gonna say it or not. If somebody's gonna say my name or not, just like experiment.
yeah, and
But I want to make a compilation video, and I'm asking all the permissions and stuff, uh, from the streamers that I get those reactions from. I want to make a compilation video to just to see how far it goes.
no, that's a great
But
idea. And you have my
I really
permission.
think it's great. I did clip it. I'll show you the clip if you want.
No, that's okay. I was there. I'll watch the compilation though once it's done.
Well, when I'm done with the compilation video, I definitely provide you a link,
All
and
right.
it's not it's not going to be monetized, so you don't have to worry about me making money off of something you did.
No, I don't care. I'm not like that. I mean, it the way I am. If you'd like, you can promote. If you come in and you participate, you can promote your stream. You can promote your art. You can promote your videos as long as it's according to terms and conditions. Uh, because that's what they do. We're supposed to sit here and get bombarded by ads, but we're all kind of like ogres when it comes like, no, don't advertise on my stream. It's like, no, come in, participate,
Yeah,
and
yeah,
advertise. You know what I
yeah.
mean?
That contradiction, man, is I've run across it, in the last couple days because I've been watching Twitch for like a year now. I have other names, and I, I came across this name as an idea just to see what happens, and then when I started getting these reactions and they were fantastic, and I'm like, getting a lot of good laughs, and then certain people were like, no, I'm insta banning you. I was like, well, this is a great idea too, like, so, obviously the people that are insta banning me, I'm not going to be able to use their content, but I thought this is a great idea, and here you have a great idea, and it really wasn't until we really started to get into this discussion, just you and me alone, to realize what kind of niche you have, right? I mean, I came across a truck driver on Twitch that he's streaming, live streaming, and the stream quality is pretty good. Um, he's doing song requests, as he's driving down the road. He can, turn the music volume down and still reply. I mean, these are kind of the niches I'm talking about. Is he has a niche there, you have a niche here. You know, um, guys are really come up with some really good ideas for marketing stuff, and I think you have this on like the supernatural or paranormal kind of thing, and I really want to help you out, man.
Yeah, no, I appreciate just with those two stories alone, man. I'm good to go. I appreciate it. And bringer of Illuminate Doom. If you have something you want to promote, go right ahead. Like Anderson Prime, this guy in the chat, Anderson Prime, Mr. Anderson. He is one hell of an artist, and that's why I gave you permission to drop your link there, Anderson Prime. Uh, so 'Cause, there's a lot of lurkers. I've noticed I have a few lurkers here and there, and even if there's only like 4 people in the chat, there's plenty more who would probably, I don't know, they're invisible or something. Click on a link to drive eyes to what you guys are doing. So feel free to do that, Anderson Prime. I love his work. Just some promotion. But yeah, whenever you come on the show, you have a story. You can actually retell a story you've had for new viewers, and just tell us what you got. Promote your stuff. Yeah, there you go. AndersonPrime.com. Check it out. You won't regret it. I mean, he's a wicked artist. I wouldn't be saying that if he wasn't, because you'd click on it and see some crappy doodles and be like, man, screw this guy. But he's got some really nice stuff. So yeah, Diogenes, if you come up with a compilation video, I'll put that on the channel.
I will definitely be happy to accommodate that, and I certainly will, because I did clip your video, and I am definitely going to use it because I want to help promote your channel. I really think you have a niche here, and I want to see it fulfilled.
All right. Well, I really appreciate that, and thank you, Anderson. What does English monster refer to? It refers to the fact that when I started Twitch the first week, I tried to. I'm an English teacher by trade. That's what I do. That's my job, my daytime job. And I tried making. I noticed that there was a lot of Russians and a lot of Koreans in the talk show channel. So I was like, well, that's what got me to Twitch. Let me see if people want to learn English. So I made this Let's Learn English site, and that was my name, English Monster. I would wear a dinosaur suit. I don't know, it was ridiculous, but nobody wanted to learn English, so I was like, let me just do something I enjoy doing. If I'm going to sit here for 5 hours a night talking to myself, I'd rather it be something I really enjoy doing, and that's when I came up with Night Terror. I was like, I want to hear people's stories, man. I want to know what frightens them or what they believe.